In Ecosfera, you use combinations of elements to get cards from the plant and fungi kingdom, which allow you to get cards from the animal kingdom to create different biomes and hopefully rewild the world. You have abundant resources at first, but as the game progresses, the resources are scarcer and unbalanced, and the interaction with the rest of the players becomes vital. Even though, do not give up. The game will not be decided until the end, and hopefully you will restore the wild world together. Hey everyone, this is Seth. Today I'm bringing you my review of Ecosfera. I have been very much looking forward to testing this game since it ticks a lot of boxes for me. It's cooperative, a deck builder, and has a great theme as well as some interesting mechanisms. But can it meet my rather high expectations? Well, why don't you stick around to find out. A few more things before we get started. A huge shout out to Albert from Julibert Games for providing me with a preview copy. You can really see that this was handmade with love. Also, keep in mind that this is a prototype, so things are still subject to change. This includes components as well as rules and gameplay. Also, the art had not been finalized yet for this prototype. Before I give you my review, let me guide you through the gameplay. Allow me to start with the setup first. The setup is quite straightforward. First, place the deck of Animal Kingdom cards face down on one side of the playing area. Below, place the deck of Plant and Fungi Kingdom cards face down as well. Then turn 4 cards of each of the 2 decks face up to the right of the decks. Below the 2 decks, place the 5 decks of element cards as follows. Depending on the difficulty you choose to place a specific number of element cards. Place 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 or 3 cards plus 1 card for each element for each player. The more cards, the easier the game. So, for a medium 2-player game, you'd use 7 or 8 cards of each element. Also place the deck of catastrophe cards, the 7 biome tiles, as well as the 7 extinction tiles next to the 3 card rows. Next, all players receive 1 of each ability tile, 1 card of each element, and 2 catastrophe cards. Shuffle the cards you received and place them down in front of you with enough space to the right of it. Then turn over the top 4 cards of the deck and place them to the right of your deck. This is your starting line of cards. That is already the setup, quick and easy. Now let's move on to the gameplay. The goal of the game is to collect all 7 biome tiles. You lose if you receive all 7 extinction tiles. It's as straightforward as that. Of course, you still need to determine the starting player. Yes, you can do that as suggested by the rulebook by choosing the player who most recently planted the plant. I've got a much more exciting method though. Give a deck of cards to each player. At best a nature-themed one, blindly remove 1 card each and shuffle the decks. Then the players try to figure out which card is missing. The first person to do so correctly begins the game. Alright, you're now ready to play. On your turn you take a look at the 4 cards from the Plant Fungi Kingdom to see which elements each of them requires. If you have all the elements they require in your card line, then you can take that card and place it onto your line of cards. All cards that you're using for this process you just move up or down like this, since you can only use them once. This way it's clear that they have already been used this round. Cards you acquire don't count as used cards yet, so you can immediately use them when you receive them. If you happen to only miss 1 element of a plant or fungi card, then you can take that element from the element decks, put it onto your card line and then use it with the other required elements to take the respective plant or fungi card and put it onto your card line. That is the only method of getting new element cards into your deck. While that will probably be your main action, especially at the beginning of the game, there are more actions you can do. If on your turn you get 2 plant or fungi cards on your line with at least 1 biome in common, then you can take an animal from the animal kingdom with that biome onto your card line. Note that you can only take 1 animal per turn this way. And if you ever get 2 animal cards with at least 1 biome in common, you can take the respective biome tiles the animals have in common. Yes, these can be several biomes even. Place the biome tiles at the top of the table in a star-shaped pattern. You're now closer to winning. Also, every time you have 2 animal cards that share at least 1 biome, you can reactivate one of your ability tiles. More on those tiles a bit later. Every time you take a card from one of the kingdom supply lines, you replace it with a new one from the respective deck. But there are 2 ways you can get a disaster card, which you really don't want. Either if you can't get any cards or biomes this turn, or if you get 3 elements of the same kind on your line. Then you draw a disaster card, put it on your line, and immediately end your turn. If you ever get 3 disaster cards on your line, you take an extinction tile and place it next to the biome tiles in a similar pattern. It gets worse. If you begin your turn with 4 disaster cards, the group immediately receives 3 extinction tiles. Try to avoid that at all costs. You also have these 3 ability tiles at your disposal that let you perform special actions on your turn. When you use one of these tiles, you turn it face down since it's now deactivated. Remember that you can reactivate one of these tiles with 2 animals on your line sharing at least one biome. So, what do these tiles allow you to do? The plus tile allows you to take an extra card from your deck onto your card line. The refresh tiles allow you to refresh either the 4 plant and fungi or the 4 animal cards, placing them under the corresponding deck and replacing them with 4 new cards. The movement tile allows you to give a card from your card line to another player's card line, or recycle a card from your card line to the supply deck as long as it's not a disaster card and you haven't used that card during the current turn yet. Alternatively, you can also return the card to the bottom of a respective kingdom deck. This is the game's way of letting you thin your deck. This is an incredibly important tactic to employ if you want to win the game. Some of the cards also contain such ability symbols. As soon as they appear on your card line, you may use them once. This does not exhaust the card, so you can also use them to get new cards onto your line. If a card has more than one ability, you can only choose one of them to use this turn. Another cool rule. Some tree cards have a mushroom symbol. If on your turn you get a tree on your line with such a symbol and a mushroom card, these will mycorrhize and you will directly receive the biome tile these 2 cards have in common. That is pretty amazing. Once you finish your turn, you collect all cards in your card line and put them face down in a discard pile to the right of your playing area. Then you take 4 new cards from the deck and place them in front of you as the new card line for your next turn. If the deck ever runs out, you just shuffle the discard pile and use it as your new deck, placing it in the left of your playing area. Then it's your next player's turn in clockwise direction. That's pretty much it. There are 2 more things to mention though. This game has a solo mode and the gameplay stays exactly the same, except for a few small changes. For the setup, you use a different number of element cards. 12, 11, 10, 9 or 8 cards of each element. Again, the more cards, the easier. Also, every time you use the movement ability, instead of being able to pass a card to another player, you instead put it on top of your deck, face up. Next round, this is an extra card you can use additionally to your line of cards. Also, at the end of the game, you count up all your points using the scoring opportunities in the rulebook. You can even work on a few achievements. Alright, that's how Ecosfera is played. But how do I like it? Quite a lot. Let me tell you why. Let's start with the outer appearance. This game not only has a great theme, but also the art style is wonderful. Yes, the art in this prototype is not done yet, but what can be seen is beautiful. The mechanisms in this game are really interesting and make for some great tactical decisions. The push your luck aspect with the plus ability that makes you think about how to deal with disaster cards, and the arrow ability that lets you transfer a card to another player, back to the supply or on top of your deck in a solo game are just fantastic. I also like the fact that acquired cards immediately go to your card line instead to your discard pile as in most standard deck builders. This lets you immediately use the powers of the card, or use it in conjunction with another card to chain different card or biome tile acquisitions. And yes, chaining card effects is really satisfying if you can pull it off. This game offers actual functional cooperation between players by dividing different biomes between players and handing cards around. This is aided by the fact that everybody can see the other player's cards for the upcoming turns. That is good design. Also, the achievements are a great touch. This really elevates the game in terms of long-term replayability. I also like that you have the option to adjust the difficulty of this game. But despite these difficulty options, the game can be immensely brutal if things don't go your way. Don't let the game's cute looks deceive you. You're dependent on the animal and plant kingdom rows as well as how your own cards come out. This can be very difficult if you're especially unlucky. Also, this is made even harder by the fact that you need to acquire a card each turn, and your deck quickly has a lot of cards. And since you're dependent on specific card combinations, this is definitely tough. That is something you need to be aware of before you play this game. Yes, you can get rid of cards, but if you do that too early, you can't progress anymore. If you like challenging games, this might be just for you. If you want a calmer experience, maybe not as much. But there's a silver lining. You don't have to necessarily win the game. The achievements at the back of the rulebook let you just gain points for whatever you achieve when playing the game. That is a good and needed addition to this pretty tough game. This game does require some basic memorization, since you need to know which biomes are depicted on the plant, fungi and animal kingdom cards you have acquired thus far. I'm generally not a fan of memorization in games, but without it this game wouldn't really work, since you can't look through your deck, of course. In a solo game, this can become an issue for people who can't remember their cards, since you can't spread different biomes across players. Last but not least, this is a minor nitpick, but I would have liked a more coherent placement of symbols on the plant, fungi and animal kingdom cards. The animal cards should, for example, have the ability symbols at the top, just like the plant and fungi cards, shouldn't they? And then you could add a symbol in the top right corner to differentiate between the different kingdoms. Then again, the production copy might have redesigned the cards a bit. All in all, I really enjoy this game. The theme and artwork are great, and this game has some really interesting mechanisms that work really well together. I haven't seen a deck builder with such a combination of mechanisms yet. The only thing I'm not a fan of is the high difficulty. Even changing the number of element cards doesn't really help a lot here. But luckily there's some scores you can hunt for instead if you can't manage to squeeze out a win. If you enjoyed what you saw in this video, why don't you check out the link to the project in this video's description. There you can save the project so you'll be reminded when it goes live. And if the campaign is running as you're watching this video, feel free to check out the campaign page. This is definitely a game worth checking out. Congratulations, you made it to the end of my preview of Ecosfera. I want to thank all of you for your support. Especially I would like to thank my patrons who are generously supporting me on Patreon. The biggest thanks go to Thacronor for being the biggest supporter. I'm immensely grateful for that. If you would also like to support me on Patreon, feel free to check out the tiers over there. You'll find the link in this video's description. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. As usual, I'm always really thankful for a like, comment and especially a subscription. By the way, you can also join my Discord server if you'd like to hang out with us. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the very next video. Take care everyone, stay safe and cheers.